Rutgers football kicks off the 2024 season Thursday night, 6 p.m. at SHI Stadium in Piscataway. Game airing live on BTN. Good old Matt Millen to kick off the season will be your color analyst, along with Jason Horowitz and Rutgers grad Taryn Hatcher on the field reporting. Wanted to do a game preview here. If you didn't catch it already, I did a 3-part season preview with the Night Report, Richie O'Leary, Mike Broadbent, David Anderson, longtime contributor of the Scarlet Faithful podcast, also participated, as did Larry Crane of Night Watch, who also had on recently as well. We previewed the offense in depth, the defense in depth, and then did game-by-game season predictions. If you haven't seen that 3-part series, it's on my channel, it's on their channel, it's on all, everywhere you listen and watch the Scarlet Faithful, it's there. It was great to collaborate with them. Went into predictions. You know, I went with 8-4, 6-3 in the Big Ten. I was pretty clear on that. I don't think this season is going to be clear sailing, or I think there's going to be adversity. And my biggest reason for that is something that Greg Schiano said in his press conference this week, just talking about injuries, right? And he only really specifies season-ending injuries. So we know about Mohamed Toure at linebacker. He really wasn't very telling in terms of Tyrone Powell, but it seems as if, as they should be pretty conservative with him. So I don't expect him to play on Thursday night. So in terms of what to watch for, that's certainly the first thing I'm looking for is linebacker play. Daryl DeJombe, Moses Walker, likely to get the starts. Abram Wright should see some time. Timmy Hinspetter should see some time. You know, how are they acclimating to those positions, not only in their individual performance, right? Tackling, reading coverages, reacting, but also directing. I think that is an underthought of concern here in terms of just how much Tyrone Powell, obviously Deion Jennings as well, Mo Toure, like those linebackers are your quarterbacks of the defense, right? So not having that experience is certainly something to watch for in terms of how the linebackers that are replacing them are adjusting. So that's something I'm definitely going to keep an eye on and harp on in the post game in terms of how they do. In addition, Schiano hinted at, or he didn't hint really. I mean, he said they're dealing with injuries. Some guys are one game, some guys are multiple games, but he said you're going to see some young guys out there for this game. So there's a flip side to that coin, right? The concern is, well, how beat up is this team? How many starters aren't going to play? How long could they potentially be out? I'm sure the very capable Rutgers media will be asking those questions to Schiano after the game. But that is the big picture concern, right? In terms of how banged up this team really is. I did want to say also, I've seen some criticism out there or some questions as to, did Schiano and the coaching staff go too hard in training camp? How come they have, all these injuries, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think, honestly, I mean, this is football. And I don't think it's fair to question or criticize the fact that this team has injuries, because to play football, to get ready for the season, to get ready for Thursday's opener, you have to practice football. And that means getting in pads, hitting each other. There is no such thing as completely replicating game speed other than being in a game. But those 2 scrimmages they had, like you have to get your team ready. And you could have all the experience in the world, and they obviously have a ton of veterans, but you have to get game ready. You have to be in shape. And that's not just in the weight room. That's not just running. That is playing football at as close to a speed as you're going to play in a game without being in a game. And they have to do that. So injuries are just part of it. It's going to happen. It's unfortunate. Toure being out really stinks for everyone involved, for us, for the team, for Toure, obviously. So yeah, it's a bummer going into the season having in my opinion, the best defensive player out for the year. Shiano said that more or less. He almost intimated that maybe he's the best player on the team. So it's a huge loss. But I think now we're going to find out what other starters are being held out. Is it precautionary? Is it because they're going to be out multiple games? You know, he mentioned Sam Brown was dealing with some stuff. He's recovering, but he was out earlier in camp. You know, that's going to be another thing. And in talking to David Anderson, who will be here for some game previews this year, wasn't able to be here today. Just talking about who's that second running back on Thursday and how do they look. You know, it's probably, if Brown doesn't go, it's probably going to be Sean Benjamin. You have some freshmen behind him. So I think a big thing to look for is just new starters, younger players. Some of the freshmen will debut. I think, you know, KJ Duff, is he going to play at wideout? High hopes for him. Kaj Sanders, highly touted defensive player. I think you'll see him in the secondary. Obviously, you know, Bo Mascow is a guy that people are very high on. And then my 3-part season preview with, you know, the guys at Night Report and Night Watch, we went through those kind of things, breakout players, stat leaders, all that. It's very comprehensive. It's over 3 hours worth of your time. I hope you take it if you haven't already. A lot of positive feedback out there. So appreciate that. But I think one thing I harped on in the season preview, I mean, Kenny Fletcher, tight end, how does he look? How's he blocking? I think that's huge. Offensive line, how cohesive do they look in game one? Obviously, Kaliakmanis. I really don't think, first of all, I want to say about Howard, you know, I don't think this is going to be like a 56-0 game or whatever people are predicting. I've seen some pretty dramatic scores out there. Howard's a solid team. Just want to pull up some notes I have here. And, I mean, last season, you know, they played in a bowl game. They were 6-6. They don't play in the best conference, but, you know, one of the better HBCU teams last year. They have, you know, some new personnel they're working in. But they have some really standout players. Kenny Gallup Jr. on defense, safety. You have Carson Hinton, who's really good for them. They're a run-heavy team. So the run defense for Rutgers will be tested early on. I think it would not surprise me if it's a bit of a slow start, meaning both teams are going to try to feel things out a little bit. I don't think my long-winded point back to Kaliakmanis is I don't think you're going to see him throw, you know, a dramatic amount. But I hope the opportunities he does have in the pass game, he is efficient. He is accurate. That's what you want to see. I don't think the playbook is going to be open too much. I think personnel-wise, they have to believe that they can outclass Howard physically, talent-wise, without having to dig too deep in terms of playbook perspective. And why shouldn't you approach it that way? Virginia Tech now 3 weeks away. Whenever you play these types of games, you always want to, can Rutgers assert their will on their inferior opponent? Can they do that from the opening kick on? Can they take control pretty early on? This is a game you'd like to see the bench on the field quite a bit and get those younger guys a lot of game experience. That would be a real positive. Obviously, a win's a win's a win. But due to what we think is some injury issues on this team, Sean was saying so without getting into specifics, and with 10 Power 4 games in a row following this opener, Howard, and then obviously Akron the weekend after. You know, you have to have that balancing act of keeping guys healthy and getting guys work, but at the same time, having them ready for these higher profile games, but also your developmental program. David Anderson and I did a podcast a few weeks ago talking about 2025 and, you know, the challenge of having so many starters back while also needing to develop these younger players for the following season. And you can't sacrifice this season, obviously. So this game is a great opportunity for that. And how does this team respond with some guys that are in spots they haven't been in before? CBE number 2, you obviously have your safeties back. But I do think you're going to see some starters out. And I think we just have to wait and see. And no one's going to have all the answers. And, you know, I'm sure Shiano will be his Shiano best after the press conference and not give too many specifics. But again, he's reiterated they're not out for the season if anyone's missing. So we'll see. But I think how the leadership of this team responds, those that are on the field, Kyle Monangai is as comforting and reliable a player that Rutgers has going into a season in quite a while. You have a lot of faith in him. You have a lot of faith in this team because of Kyle Monangai. And I would expect him to have a dominant game against a team like Howard on Thursday. But yeah, you want to see, Kaliakmanis' pocket presence, his efficiency, his command of the huddle. Lots of things to watch for. Tons of receivers, how they look. There's going to be a lot to talk about. Snap counts, who didn't play. So, as always, I'll have my rapid reaction after the game. First one of the season. Look forward to it. It's just a different kind of feel when I do it. I get a little adrenaline rush. Did want to talk about, before I end on some game thoughts, I did want to interlude with some news in terms of if you're attending the game. There are some changes. You can find all this on the scarletknights.com. But there is SHI Stadium is now cashless. Also, there's a new security system upon entry. So they're recommending people get in a little bit early. So don't be surprised. It's a tough kickoff, 6 o'clock. I can't make it myself. I'll still, I work in the city. 6 p.m. is less than ideal on a Thursday, but it is what it is. We needed Matt Millen in that booth. I kid. I have a lot of respect for Matt Millen as a player, as a person. He's a little tough to listen to sometimes. Let's be honest. He's a Penn State guy. No disrespect, but all jokes aside, this season is here. Also, transition Movova pods for nursing mothers are now installed. I saw a Facebook posting somewhere that a specific mother wrote Rutgers in the offseason about having these, and they did it. So, bravo to Rutgers for that. Let's see, the bag policy's on there, but yeah, it's cashless mobile tickets, new check-in policy. They're going to have some cool pins for kids for the boardwalk pregame. They're going to have autographed posters that were part of FanFest. So if you have kids, lots of fun things for the kids at the game. And in terms of this team, you just want to see them get healthy out of this game, have the young guys step up, take control of this game early on. Again, I don't think it's going to be a complete laugher. I think Howard is a respect. This is not like playing Wagner like they have in the past. Also special teams, the punter, Anderson, first game. Let's see how he looks. But I think in terms of, Edge James' son, Eden James, is one of the running backs. They're a good running team for the league they play in. So that's a good test in terms of that. But overall, this is obviously a game Rutgers should win handily. You want to get young guys reps in this game. You want to get out healthy, and you want to move on. But let's not let it stop our excitement for the 2024 season. Finally here, and we get to watch Rutgers football on Thursday night, going into Labor Day weekend. So a lot going on. I'll have a pod coming out, a lot of hoops news out on Wednesday, talking about the Players Era Festival, the Vegas Feast Week tournament, in terms of those matchups, broadcasts. I'll get into all that. Also, a charity game in the works against St. John's, which probably should be at the Rack Jersey Mike's Arena in the preseason in October. Some other hoops tidbits I want to talk about. Steve Peichel, Dylan Harper on WFAN, which is now going to broadcast all of Rutgers games. So I'll have a basketball-related pod. Maybe I'll put it out Friday, maybe Saturday. Also have a couple of interviews coming out. One with a Rutgers student athlete, another very notable Rutgers fan out there. I have that coming out. Those will both be out by Friday. A lot of content this week. And then, of course, the AD search, the story coming out about Pat Hobbs and gymnastics. Want to get into the search as well, and kind of have some pretty strong thoughts on it in terms of the search. So I'll have an episode coming out there. That I'm not sure when I'll put that out. Maybe this weekend. Maybe for Sunday, Monday. We'll see. But a lot in the works here at the Scarlet Faithful podcast. I really appreciate everyone who listens and watches. You can email me. You can message me if you ever have any feedback. If you could subscribe, if you could rate me on Apple or Spotify, whatever you can do to support the program, appreciate it. And we're about to start the journey for not only just football, but what we hope is a great year ahead. Obviously, women's soccer, men's soccer is in progress. Both suffered pretty tough losses in the last few days. Volleyball starts this weekend. Field hockey starts this weekend. So we're here. The offseason is over. And let's jump in, do it together. Rutgers football kicking off against Howard, 6 p.m. Thursday night. But it's just going to be fun to see a new team and a lot of returning guys. There's going to be a lot of young players, a lot of newcomers, transfers. Let's see how the defensive line looks. And we'll have plenty to say after the game. But I'm going to have at least one more pod come out before the game. Not football related probably, but we'll have plenty to say after the game. So look out for that rapid reaction, as always, after the game. Thanks so much for listening and watching once again here at the Scarlet Faithful Podcast.